All right, so on this panel we have 4 leaders from Coinbase, and Coinbase is really the giant in the industry at this point. I mean, it was reported that in 2017 the company did over $1 billion in revenue, and it feels like every single week there's a new product launch or a new acquisition being announced. And so I'm excited to chat with you guys kind of about a lot of the new developments. And full disclosure on this one, I worked at Coinbase. I'm a Coinbase shareholder, but this is not going to be a Coinbase marketing pitch. While I do think it's good validation for new markets that Coinbase is entering it, I definitely don't think it's a given that Coinbase will be winning all these markets, and we'll get into that a bit as well. But why don't we start by you guys talking briefly about kind of what you're working on at Coinbase, and maybe start with Sid to talk about Toshi.
Sure, so I'm the product lead on Toshi, which is our user-controlled Ethereum wallet, and that supports not just basic Ethereum, but also ERC20 tokens and ERC721 collectibles. And then we have a dApp browser where we curate the best mobile dApps in the ecosystem, and users can use them. And then finally, we have an inbuilt chat with crypto payments. So instead of sending messages to like long hex addresses, you send it to actual users.
Hi, I'm Reuben Bramanathan. I lead Coinbase Asset Management. We create index funds for cryptocurrencies, really aim to give a broad exposure to cryptocurrencies and crypto assets as an asset class and enable more investors to get into the space.
Hi everyone, I'm Connie Yang. I'm the Director of Design at Coinbase, and I lead the design team and advocate for ease of use and understanding in the cryptocurrency space.
And I'm Sam McIngvale. I lead Coinbase Custody. Coinbase Custody exists to help financial institutions invest in the crypto asset space, so hedge funds, banks, as well as brokerages. We launched publicly this past Tuesday, and we're excited to finally be live.
So I think one kind of interesting thing about the new products that Coinbase is launching, and as well as acquisitions, is there's kind of this division between user-controlled products and hosted products. So Sid, I guess Toshi being maybe the flagship user-controlled product at this point, maybe for those that don't know, talk about what exactly is the difference there, and maybe what that enables you to do as a kind of product leader versus kind of the more hosted solutions like what Sam and Reuben are leading.
Sure, so because Toshi is a user-controlled wallet, one of the most important things is that you custody the keys. So the private keys are stored on your device, and as a result of that, you are then free to do whatever you'd like with your private keys. We don't do KYC, we don't do AML. It's really a software product. And so that really opens up the full spectrum of the possibilities of crypto, where anything that someone builds, whether it's a decentralized exchange, or it's a collectibles marketplace, or anything, we're a neutral platform, and users can just go out there and explore everything that's there to explore in crypto.
I think one of the key distinctions there, too, is from a regulation perspective and how regulators view user-controlled versus hosted, right? So maybe, Reuben, you can talk a little bit about a more kind of hosted, regulated product like Index and how you think about that.
Yeah, I guess it's a great point, right? There's really 2 types of products, as you say, the hosted and the non-hosted. I think what we're doing with all the hosted products is really recreating the financial infrastructure that exists in Finance 1.0 to enable people to securely store assets with custody, to gain exposure through index funds, and to trade on markets with Coinbase Prime. But at the same time, those are very heavily regulated spaces. So Coinbase being the bridge between fiat and crypto, that's one way we think about our entire role to date. But at the same time, we're exploring these more open products. And I think that speaks to our overall mission of creating an open financial system for the world. So you'll see Coinbase play in both spaces going forward, maybe taking some more innovative approaches with the user-controlled products.
And Sam, maybe you could talk a little bit about Custody, which is a relatively new product you guys launched, and clearly a highly regulated product that's going after traditional institutions. Maybe just talk a little bit about kind of the strategy there, and particularly, do you think it's helpful to have the strong kind of consumer brand of Coinbase already, while it's probably a completely new customer base? I'm curious how you see that.
Yeah, great question. I think 2 parts. So first, the regulated piece. We are absolutely embracing regulation as much as we can. This is part of our be the most trusted brand philosophy or strategy. On the custody side, that's unique because there are issues with both securities and non-securities, and as some of the panels earlier today talked about, it's hard to figure out where that line is being drawn right now. So we're in active discussions with the regulators every day, trying to make sure we're on the right side of where this space is going, and also help to educate them and lead a little bit. On the brand perspective, I think brand is huge in custody. In fact, the custodians that win, there's strong network effects in winning in custody, and brand and then total assets or AUM tend to be two of the drivers of those network effects. I think the advantage that Coinbase Custody gets is, especially if you think about some of our early adopters of custody, so crypto-first investment vehicles, crypto hedge funds, their LPs are folks that understand Coinbase's role in the ecosystem. And for the GPs of those funds, the managers of those funds to say, hey, we're going to custody at Coinbase, they understand our security history, again, our brand. I think that brings a lot of, it's just a strong foundation to build off of. We get a ton of leverage out of that.
And Connie, maybe you can talk about, from a design perspective, obviously leading kind of design at Coinbase, how you think about kind of the different products and how you keep them consistent from a design perspective or unify them, and particularly kind of challenges with user-controlled versus hosted.
That's definitely one of our big challenges. We have such a wide variety of products, and I think that's needed in the space. You'll have some people that want the really, really simple version that is really accessible, and we control their wallets for them. And then you have some that really want full control of their own funds at all times. And what's important for us is to make the distinction as clearly as possible so everyone knows what they're getting into. Like, we recommend like the Coinbase main product as this is what people should start getting into. And we try to keep it very, very simple, and we always let people have more information if they're looking for it. And when they're trying to get into a product that has, where they have to control their own wallet, we try to add in what I've been calling benevolent friction. We add in steps to make sure people know if you don't write down the seed phrase or if you don't get this information correct, you may lose all of your funds. And we try to keep this consistent across all of our different products that have user-controlled wallets, so they're not trying to relearn something every single time. So that's a huge thing for us, at least within our own suite of products.
Got it. So one of the things that I think Coinbase is kind of trying to build a culture of, and from Brian at the top, is creating these kind of business units within the company that are really kind of entrepreneurial. And like I know, Reuben, you're kind of basically a one-man show, or at least were for a while with Index, right? So I think people would be interested in kind of in the operations side of, in all your cases, kind of what the kind of structure is of the operation within Coinbase and how how that works.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating to see it unfold. I think one of the challenges of this scale of growth is going from a single product consumer-facing company to dealing with, we now have, we were counting before, 8 products and counting, and addressing a bunch of different market segments. So there's got to be a cultural shift in the entire company around the way we think about our customers and our products. And as Nick alluded to, the way to do that is separate business units. So creating more nimble, almost startups within Coinbase that can go out and build these new products for their specific target market, supported by the core functions of Coinbase as well.
And Sid, maybe talk a little bit about Toshi. I know, Brian spoke about Toshi at Token Summit last year, and at that time it was really kind of his passion project within the company that he was leading. And now, what's the kind of organizational structure of Toshi, and how are you operating under kind of Coinbase?
Sure. So about 6 months ago, I think Brian realized that something that he had started as a side project was now turning into its own thing. There was clearly this market of people that wanted to have a user-controlled crypto wallet, that wanted to be able to explore this new decentralized web that was emerging. And so that's when he said, okay, I'm going to hire a product lead. And that's when I came in. And we were lucky enough a couple of months ago to acquire Cypher Browser. So one of our, best, I would say, our most admired competitors, we were lucky enough that we were able to join forces. And so what we're now is a team of 2. So there's me and then there's Pete Kim from Cypher. And we also have the support of an external agency that helps us with building the product out. And it's working really well. We feel like it's very entrepreneurial. We have a lot of leeway to make decisions. We consult with the executives, we consult with the board, but really, as product leads, we're given the kind of the optionality and the power to take the decisions we think is right for the customer and right for the product strategy.
And Connie, maybe you could talk about, I imagine there's some cases where you are involved in kind of the design of these new products. In other cases, you're not. But how exactly does that work within Coinbase?
So, well, I joined Coinbase 8 months ago, and when I started, there were 3 designers. Now there's around 12. So we've definitely scaled up, and as Reuben mentioned, we have 8 products and counting. So we try to be as involved as possible. But for new products, it's often a designer will help out part-time, or we work with an agency, and we try to get things started with as much help from the people on the ground as possible. But it's split. It's not like a cleanly set up, perfectly operating team. We really are trying to do our best and keep it as consistent as possible, but that's one of the biggest challenges that we're facing at the moment in terms of design.
And Sam, how about you in custody and kind of how that operationally works?
Yeah, I think Coinbase's commitment to continuing to operate at startup speed is pretty profound, and it's specifically through this idea of multiple business units that are startups within startups. So similar to Sid, Brian Armstrong, our CEO, was actually leading custody when I started, and I think it was my 4th day on the job when he introduced me to basically who's most of our launch partners from this past Tuesday, and said, figure out pricing, just go. And at that point, I owned the project, and I was sort of trusted to make all the decisions there. So currently, that means running with our regulatory strategy and interfacing with regulators, business development, scaling up our engineering and product, working with Connie on design. It's pretty much everything, and I think that we're empowered, and actually our mandate is to act as entrepreneurs and scale out these business units while leveraging the shared services that Connie and others are building out across sort of the base layer. It's a real challenge. It's super fun because we have almost unlimited resources inside Coinbase right now, and the great support of some of the smartest people in the space. So we're set up for success in a pretty unique way.
So do you guys have North Star metrics within your business units? And if so, maybe talk a little bit about what those are and how you're kind of focused on driving them for the next year.
Sure, so I'll start with Toshi, for example. For us, it's really about getting users to engage with crypto, to use it, to not just buy tokens and store them, but to go out and use them. And so there's 2 sides to our metrics. One is on the user side, which is monthly transacting users. That's something that we try and track and see how that's been growing. But on the other side, it's if you've read Chris Dixon's stuff, he talks about the idea of developer market fit, and we're building a platform for developers to build on as well. And so that's another thing that we've been tracking is what is developer engagement like? How many great dApps do we feature? And we're pretty happy to say that we started 6 months ago where we had maybe 1 or 2 dApps. CryptoKitties was the first one. And today we're at almost 50 decentralized applications that we think are pretty good experience on mobile. So we're tracking, like I said, both the user side as well as the developer side.
And how much of, from a Toshi perspective, do you think is, what you can do versus just where the market is, right? Because I think part of a platform is you need to be, it needs to be right place at the right time. So how do you guys think about balancing, experimenting with your own dApps and things like that versus just waiting to see what comes next?
Yeah, I think right place, right time is exactly right.
Yeah, is there a quick question?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Turn that mic off, please.
Yeah, so I would say definitely a year ago would have been too early. 6 months ago was the right time to enter this space. Because if you look at the Ethereum community, there are thousands of developers, right? If you want to build something for crypto, it's probably on Ethereum right now, and there's a lot of developer interest. So this is the right time to create that foundational infrastructure layer, give developers the tools they need, and that's something that we focus on every day. We engage with all the developers in the space, all of the big projects, and just help them, what can we do to improve the user experience? What can we do to improve the experience of building a decentralized application? And we're actively engaged in that. So I think this is the right time to be building.
What are the 3 most actively used dApps on Toshi right now?
Sure, so I would say that CryptoKitties is a big one. Decentralized exchanges are another big one. There's probably, those are the ones that we feature. There's probably other use cases that we don't feature that, I won't go into them, but basically stuff that we wouldn't want to feature, but people use that anyway because it's an open platform. But I would say that decentralized exchanges for token trading and the collectibles are the 2 biggest spaces. The third space that's emerging is social media. So there's a couple of dApps that are doing a pretty good job there with decentralized social media. And so that's another area that's growing.
Reuben, maybe you could talk a little bit about the North Star metrics that you're kind of driving towards on Coinbase Index.
Sure. Yeah, so the goal of Coinbase Asset Management is really to solve that paradox of choice for new people coming into crypto. It's pretty common to hear people excited about this asset class or investment opportunity, but not knowing where to start. There are so many, which one do I choose, is a really common theme we're hearing. So long-term, our goal is to make it as easy as possible for new people coming into crypto to get a broad exposure to the entire asset class. Having said that, our first fund is institutional focused. It is open now, and we've seen strong demand from institutions. But we're also working on funds that will be available to retail investors. So both scaling the breadth of the target market and also the scope of the funds by adding more assets to those funds. So I guess without disclosing too much about metrics, I'd say those are the goals.
Connie, maybe you could talk a little bit about kind of your North Star, not within a business unit, but within design broadly.
That's it's a great question. For us, what we consider to be our North Star generally is how easy it is for people to actually understand and to get on board and use our products. And it's hard to measure. We actually started a user research practice around 2 months ago, so we're actually trying to talk to people and understand what they're actually thinking when they're trying to use our products and be able to compare that to the newer products that we're building. Coinbase has been around for like 6 years now. 6 years as a company, and the product has also been built. The product was mostly like 3 years old, and then we changed. We rebuilt the entire mobile app November of last year, and so we were able to compare some ways of are people onboarding easier? Are they understanding what they're supposed to be doing? So we really try to just focus on the user experience and make it easier for people.
And how about you, Sam, in custody?
Yeah, the simplest North Star for a custody business is assets under management, how many assets you have on the platform. We've got some pretty wide eyes there. We expect to be a significant portion of the Bitcoin float and the Ether float in a couple years, and hopefully a larger percentage of the overall crypto market cap. So that's how we'll measure business success. A more near-term metric that we're tracking is how much of the available crypto market cap you can custody at Coinbase Custody. So we're launching just with the 4 assets on Coinbase.com, but expect to rapidly add there and hopefully get north of 98-99% of the crypto market cap in the near future.
Got it. And why? Talk a little bit about why would someone that's using a Ledger hardware wallet or some other user-controlled wallet or Coinbase Vault, why would they use custody? Maybe talk a little bit about that. I presume there's some people in here that may be interested.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it plays out across a couple different dimensions. One of the most frequent sort of value props that we offer is key insider threat elimination. So this is the case where 1 or 2 people inside an organization that might be managing money for others or is managing that organization's money, again, could be a brokerage that you're selling out to others, owns private keys. And you is in control of those private keys. And the problem there is they can walk out the door with all of those assets. So one of the key features that a custodian brings is it eliminates that and puts in place processes and technology to make sure no single person or even small groups of individuals can come together either inside the custodian or at those businesses to move those assets out. The second, and maybe equally important depending on what your business model is a regulated and auditable solution. So we're launching under very well-known regulatory regimes here in the States. We think that is the appropriate way to help push this market forward. Those regulatory regimes are the same ones that the majority of our clients are regulated under, so there's a lot of familiarity there, both with our clients directly and their customers. And then finally, it's auditable, so we're bringing in big name auditors to help make sure folks outside of our organization understand where assets are, how they're controlled, what the access controls are around them. Our clients can do the same.
Okay, we've got a few more minutes. Why don't we talk a little bit about kind of the competition that you guys were seeing? I mentioned at the beginning, I think it's unlikely that Coinbase succeeds in all these products, right? And it's a pretty standard playbook for a breakout unicorn company to, in a fast-growing market, to get in all these new business units. So maybe talk a little bit about threats to what you guys are doing, or what other interesting projects that you think are out there kind of competing with you. I'd be interested to hear about that.
Sure. So I think we've seen a lot of competitive activity of late. I think probably our biggest competition is MetaMask. They created the category. They operate on we're different in that they operate on the web and we operate on mobile. but they definitely have the mind share that, it's very impressive, and those guys have done a great job of building. But in terms of, I would say, otherwise, I think we've created a category, which is the mobile crypto wallet plus dApp browser. And in that sense, I think we're well positioned with the Coinbase brand as well as the ability to execute, right? People, when you use a wallet product, people need something that is both secure and has been built with a lot of engineering resources put into it, but they also need something that's very user-friendly. And I think that's something that Coinbase does really well, which is be both really trusted and easy to use. And so I think that's why we have a chance of winning in this category.
But to be clear, MetaMask is desktop browser based, and they don't have a mobile app, right? So,
that's right.
And you guys are really laser focused on mobile.
That's correct. Yeah.
What about Status? I honestly haven't seen much about them lately. I know they did a big token sale, and I don't know if they've delivered a product. Are you seeing them?
Yeah, I think they're getting closer and closer to launching. So
okay.
I think they're a good team. We're going to see when they go live and fully live. I think they're still in beta, if I'm not mistaken. But I think it's good. It's a sign of a healthy marketplace and a sign of if a place is exciting enough, you're going to attract competition, and that's a sign that you've picked the right place to compete.
Reuben, how about you?
Yeah, I think an interesting way to think about competition for all these Finance 1.0 businesses is our businesses are going to be disrupted by the very technology that we're supporting. So we have to anticipate smart contract-based index funds, some of which are already launched, protocols which enable token abstraction, let you control your own index of assets. So we have to work out how we play in that space as well. Otherwise, we get caught just replicating existing business models.
And Sam, any thoughts on kind of what you guys are seeing in the custody market?
Yeah, sure. So frankly, Coinbase Custody is a little late to the game. Zappo's been around for years, has a fantastic product. BitGo, Kingdom Trust are probably the clear leaders in servicing the majority of crypto hedge funds and index funds out there right now. The Ledger Vault product that was recently announced is pretty cool, and I think a lot of us are excited to see what Anchor is going to bring to market pretty soon. So there's a bunch of competitors doing interesting things, which I think serves as validation for the space. And frankly, there's enough room for multiple winners here. But it certainly is motivating to us to know that we're behind on a number of metrics and have a bunch of work to do, and we're going to keep our eyes on that.
So we're about to close up, but I guess I want to open up and ask you guys, what are you guys most excited about for the next year? Either, and you could talk about something that you're working on specifically, or just within Coinbase broadly.
Sure. So I can kick off just on in Toshi world, right? The amount of developer interest is amazing, and what we've seen built in the last year, right? We saw 0x come in, the rise of decentralized exchanges, the rise of programmable money, of NFTs and collectibles. That's just the start, and I can't wait to see what kind of applications people build. I feel like people are going to build applications that fully fulfill the promise of crypto, things that could not have been possible in today's world. And I think we're just excited to play that, to be the gateway to all of those experiences that developers are going to create this year.
Yeah, I'm personally very passionate about new people entering the space, and getting mainstream adoption means both of education and really making it clear to users why crypto, where is the value here, and at the same time, the importance of design and user control of funds to kind of abstract away some of the more difficult concepts to grasp. So I think when we have those parallels of great design and more education and information out there, we're going to see an influx of new users. So I'm actually most excited by Toshi.
That's going to be my answer. From the design perspective, I think the biggest problem that hinders more people from having access to the space is the experience and the understanding of what blockchain is, how it works, and how do people get started. So for me, I think we're at the turning point for where, we're building a lot of products, but everyone else is also entering the space, trying to build everything at the same time. It's really exciting. I don't know what'll shake out. I don't know what things will get picked up first, but I do think it's really important for everyone to start thinking about how to communicate this technology and what the use cases are beyond what the investment and the different types of speculation that's happening right now. I think if we all believe in the future of blockchain and how that can help equalize the world and create an open financial system, we really need to get people on board and understanding what it actually is and why it's important. So for me, it's that access to education and making sure people can join.
And I'll wrap up just by being the cheerleader. Coinbase's ambition as a company is really remarkable, and it's a lot of fun to be around. I think the reality is not all of these businesses will succeed, but we certainly expect them all to succeed and probably define categories along the way. There's also many more businesses in the pipeline that are forthcoming. So just being a part of that and hopefully doing our part to help the space mature and move forward is a lot of fun to be around every day.
Awesome. Thanks very much, guys.